You know that feeling, right? You're deep in a conversation with an AI, things are going great, and then suddenly it completely forgets what you were talking about just a minute ago. It's so frustrating. Well, it happens for a very specific reason. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most important ideas in AI, the context window. Seriously, understanding this is the key to stopping those annoying cutoffs and even keeping your costs down.
And there it is. That sentence gets right to the heart of the whole thing. The AI isn't being stubborn or buggy, it's literally just running out of memory. So let's unpack what that really means.
The easiest way to wrap your head around this is to think of it as a memory problem. You know how we humans have a short-term memory that can only juggle so much at once? Well, AI models have the exact same kind of limit. And when that limit gets hit, stuff starts getting dropped. Okay, let's get into it. That short-term memory we're talking about, it's got a technical name, the context window. This is basically the digital space where your entire conversation with the AI lives, from the very first thing you said to its latest reply. So here's the most important part. The context window is a finite thing. It's the absolute maximum amount of info the model can look at in one go. And that includes both what you tell it and what it tells you back. Think of it like a piece of paper that only has so much space. Now, how do we measure what actually fits on that piece of paper? Well, we don't count words, we count tokens. A token can be a whole word, maybe like car, or just a part of a word, like ing or pre. For English, a good rule of thumb is that about 4 characters make up one token. Everything you type and everything the AI writes back uses up these tokens. The math here is actually super simple. The system just counts up all the tokens in your prompt, that's your input. Then it counts the tokens in the AI's answer, that's the output. If you add those two together and the total is bigger than the model's limit, well, you've got a problem. So what happens when you try to cram too much information onto that piece of paper? The system has to make a choice. And, it's not always the choice you'd want it to make for your conversation. The official name for this is truncation. It's what happens when that context window is totally full and the model has no choice but to start chopping things off to make room. And this right here is the biggest issue with truncation. The AI doesn't just forget random, unimportant stuff. Nope. It usually drops the oldest information first. That means the key details from the very beginning of your chat, the whole foundation of the conversation, are often the first things to just disappear. All right, enough about the problem. The good news is we can totally manage this. There are some really smart strategies that both everyday users and developers can use to work with the context window, not against it. Let's check them out. Okay, so on a high level, the solutions really fall into a few main buckets. You can have the system automatically summarize older parts of the conversation. You can find clever ways to compress information into fewer tokens. Or, and this one is a real game changer, you can set things up to retrieve specific data only when the AI actually needs it, instead of stuffing everything in there from the start. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because there's a trade-off between the two big approaches people are using today. On one side, you've got these models with absolutely massive context windows, but they tend to be way more expensive and a bit slower. On the other side, you have a technique called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG for short, which is cheaper, faster, and can even use data that's fresh and up to the minute. See, there's no single best answer. It's all about picking the right tool for what you're trying to do. So let's bring this all together. What does this all mean for you, right now, when you're just trying to use an AI? Well, there are some really simple best practices you can start using immediately to take control. First off, keep it concise. Don't waste your precious tokens on fluff. Second, if you have a huge document you want the AI to know about, for the love of all that is holy, don't just paste the whole thing in. Use a tool that's built for retrieval. And finally, and this one's huge, remember to leave room for the answer. If your prompt fills the entire window, the AI has zero space left to actually give you a response. At the end of the day, this is the main takeaway. That context window isn't some infinite magic box. It's a valuable and very limited resource. If you start treating it like precious memory and actually use it with a bit of strategy, you are going to get much better, more consistent, and way more useful results from any AI model out there. And that really leaves us with this final thought. Now that you know an AI's memory isn't magic, it's a real, measurable resource, it totally changes how you should approach it, right? So how are you going to make your prompts more efficient? How are you going to structure your next big conversation to get the absolute most out of every single token? The power, as they say, is now in your hands.